Order, and I am Daryl Hawkins, the chairperson, and we also have Stephen Milich present.
Hello.
And first item is, are there any public comments that have come forward?
At this time, I do not see any public comments, no.
Okay. Okay, so we will start. No, we don't quite start. Yes, we do. The first item is to adopt the administrative order for failure to comply with the compliance order issued August 21, 2020 for violation of City Code Section 22-38.2 at 2298 Prescott Avenue for Richard and Gwendolyn Peckham. I'm Daryl Hawkins. And I assume we're proceeding on that. Okay.
This is Ryan Donlin.
Yes.
If I may, just one or two housekeeping matters. I just wanted to state for the record that I am representing the board in this matter. My colleague, Karen Slama, Assistant City Attorney, is representing the staff. We do work in the same office. However, we have not discussed the substance of this matter with each other, nor have I discussed the substance of this matter with any of the staff members. At the hearing, the city staff will have the burden of proving that a violation occurred and that it was not corrected in a timely manner. They have the burden of doing so by preponderance of the evidence, which means 50 plus 1. The formal rules of evidence do not apply to this hearing. However, the board should only consider those matters that are reasonably reliable and consistent with its own practices and procedures. It would be a good idea, I think, to swear in witnesses as a measure of good process. And since the department has the burden of proof, the board may wish that it goes first, and then any respondent that is present can respond to that. That's all.
Okay, thank you. Are we ready to proceed? Shall we go ahead?
Yes, the department's ready to proceed.
Okay, so we will have that staff presentation regarding this.
Okay, the staff presentation will be by Code Compliance Officer Bill Moritz.
And I have the ability to screen share.
You should.
It turned off a bit ago. So just by matter of introduction, my name is Bill Moritz. I'm the Code Compliance Coordinator for the City of Monterey. And I will be presenting my staff report, and my screen sharing is currently disabled. Alicia, can we get that enabled?
Alicia, are you there?
I'm here. I'm checking into that right now.
If need be, I can share my screen, Bill, with the presentation.
Okay, try now, Bill. I think I've just rectified the problem.
Here we go. Thank you. Okay, can everyone see the presentation?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So this matter regards 2298 Prescott Street and the nuisance abatement of this location. We've been dealing with this off and on since about 2005. I came into this case in July when I was hired in this position, but the case was already existing prior to that time. We're looking to adopt an administrative order for failure to comply with the compliance orders to clean up the location of the nuisance, the refuse, garbage, and vehicles on the property. By matter of the most relevant notices and citations, prior to my starting in this position, the Building and Safety Division of the City of Monterey on 311 posted a danger keep out. They felt that the premises were unsafe for habitation at that time. That was just prior to COVID. And the resident, Miss Gwendolyn Peckham, had been already removed from the location and was living with her daughter. Mr. Peckham had passed away prior to this time. On 5/18, an administrative citation was sent and posted at the property by my predecessor, Jason Nene, the previous code compliance coordinator. There was no response to that letter. On 7/3/2020, the fire department visited the location and provided a weed abatement and fuel reduction inspection, and a notice was posted at the property due to high weeds and fire dangers, including the accumulated pine needles and the storage of abandoned vehicles on the lot. On 8/19, after my starting with the city and investigating and providing my own research on the location, I issued a compliance order listing the violations and the corrective action that was required with a due date of September 8th of 2020. Nothing was done through that time by the owner. There was some movement at that time. I was able to contact and work with the mortgage company. The house is currently, there is a lien on the house through a reverse mortgage, and therefore there is an interested mortgage company, and they have a property maintenance company that does some work, and they were able to make some progress. I will get into that in further slides. However, at that time, by December, there still was not significant, and we needed to deal with the vehicles, which the mortgage company had no authority to deal with since they were private property. So I issued a second compliance order listing the violations again, the corrective actions required. It was posted, sent to the location of record. By that time, I was able to reach the property owner's daughter, at least identify her address and where the property owner was living. And mail was sent to Stephanie Botten out in the Corral de Tierra area. And they had a correction date of January 4th, 2021. This is the sort of initial condition that I was met with when I first visited the property. A lot of the property was inaccessible simply due to the condition, and there were multiple vehicles and trailers that I had not even identified at that time because of the height and depth of the refuse at that time. This is the view from not Prescott, but the adjoining perpendicular street. And you can see the vehicle, you can see a camper. This view shows fairly well. Most of the clutter, debris, etc., was all around the back and sides of the property, as well as a lot of dangerous chemicals. The progress work that was done by the lien holder, the roof was repaired enough that at least was not leaking inside the building. That was done on approximately 7/24/2020. They were able to abate the chemicals. They removed 2 truckloads of everything from gasoline, kerosene, paints, lacquers, thinners, oils, etc. So we feel a lot better about that, but there are still some questions as to whether any additional chemicals remain at this time, but we've done a fairly thorough job of that. The trash and weeds were abated approximately by October 1st. The fence was just replaced recently on 116, and there's still one remaining garage that needs to be secured. I'll show you a picture of that. This is the new fence that was put up, major improvement. If you recall from that first photo that I showed you of the clutter, this is a picture on the right is actually of that same location without the play gym and equipment. You can see the two trailers, and you can just see the front of a van, which I did not even know existed until they abated a lot of the refuse. The major issue at this time is the vehicle abatement. Currently on the property, not on hardscape and within the setbacks of the property, are an Oldsmobile sedan, a Ford van, a Class A motorhome, a camper shell, and two trailers. In order to abate this, we may have to remove and replace some sections of the fence, but we can come to that when we get to it. This is the motorhome, the van, the camper shell, and the two trailers, which you can see have almost disintegrated into the ground at this time. This is the two-car garage structure that I mentioned to you, and just as recently as early January, you can see the condition of the garage and the progress that was luckily made on that. It's the only non-secured building on the site, and currently I've been told that the lien holder has approval and a contract secured to secure it. That was actually yesterday. I did not have the opportunity to verify that today, but we can certainly do that. And I have looked under the vehicles that I mentioned to you, and there is more clutter actually shoved underneath the vehicle, so there may be a little bit of abatement that we need to do of trash, refuse, and chemicals once the vehicles themselves are actually removed. My recommendation is that we determine that the property has been and continues to be in violation of the City Code, Section 22-38.2, and that violation constitutes a public nuisance due to the storage of unused and/or non-operational vehicles and trailers. I believe that we need to determine that the responsible party, Richard and Gwendolyn Peckham, who are still on title, failed to take required corrective action within the time specified in the compliance order issued or the multiple compliance issued ordered and response to the condition of the property. I would recommend that we issue an administrative order directing them to abate the public nuisance on the property, specifically the non-operational vehicles and trailers, and that the nuisance be abated within 30 days before its decision, and that we impose penalties and costs associated with the investigation and the work put in to do so. That is my presentation. If you have any questions, please let me know.
Steve?
What remains to be done on the property?
Primarily, it's the vehicles, the motorhome, the car, the trailer, the van, and the trailers are not stored properly. There are requirements in the city of Monterey with respect to where the vehicles can be stored on the driveway apron, in front of a parking garage, in front of and on hardscape. These are all within the yard setback and need to be removed for safety. There are fuels in them, etc. With respect to actual refuse, at this time, I would say that the refuse has been abated short of anything that's actually underneath the vehicles and unseen.
What is the lien holder supposed to remove today?
There's nothing left for them to remove, simply to secure that two-car garage. Put plywood on it so that no one enters the area illegally.
So they're not involved with removing the vehicles.
They cannot be. I have talked with them about that. Because the vehicles are private property, they do not have the authority to remove them.
Thank you.
Well,
And what are you asking in the way of penalties? I noticed in your report you asked for $10 a day, but you haven't asked us today what you want in evidence.
my understanding is we are going to stick with the exact same amount. We continued this hearing, and because the continuance was not any request or fault of the property owner, we will accept the fines and penalties of the previous year, up to the previous year.
Please give us the amount and break it down.
Sure, give me one moment to pull that up.
Sorry, Board Member Milich, were you asking to break down the penalties and costs requested by the department?
Correct.
So
No,
currently,
no,
and
no,
this
no.
is in
No,
attachment 4 of which is the proposed order.
Not the
The
penalties.
department is asking for administrative costs in the amount of $2,290.97. And then penalties for failure to bring the property into compliance after the compliance order of $10 per day. So totaling $360 for the period between the December 4th compliance order and today's hearing. And then if they fail to abate the vehicles going forward within the 30, assuming you set 30 days, if they failed after that point, then the department has requested penalties of $50 per day, accruing up to $100,000.
Now, the administrative cost, I do believe that those have to be justified based upon hourly rates, et cetera, et cetera.
Correct. So that is in attachment 5, I believe, which shows the number of hours worked by the different staff members and their hourly rates.
We need that introduced into evidence. That's not in evidence, is it? Nobody's
Bill?
turned in and put the report.
Yes, that's in the agenda packet, and I'm sharing the screen right now. You can see the code compliance hours of 9, contract code compliance of
Okay.
5, community development director and city attorney.
Okay, if that's in evidence, let's put it all in evidence so we can feel good about what we're doing and justify what we're doing.
Understood.
I'd also just like to say that the proposed order, in light of the fact that the lien holder has done work to bring it into compliance, the board will want to amend or revise the proposed order to eliminate some of the code sections since they're no longer applicable in light of the lien holder's work.
Okay. Have you spoke to Ms. Bauman? Was that her name? Boughton?
Boughton, actually, I spoke with her for the very first time this morning. I have been attempting to contact her since I was able to contact her husband back in August approximately, and I've received no phone calls back. I would call her consistently, and until this morning, I have not been able to reach her. And this morning, when I spoke to her, she was very distraught, would be my best description of her reaction to things. She seems to be struggling with the situation and not knowing what to do and feeling very guilty about it. But by the same token, she seems unable to make any progress with the property either. She seems to have tried in the past and been unable to, and she has received our orders of compliance, and she has not acted on them.
Do we know who owns the vehicles?
My understanding is that they are registered in Gwendolyn Peckham's name, Gwendolyn and her husband's name. They are their property, with the exception of perhaps the van may be registered in her son's name, Miss Boughton's brother, who is deceased. He passed away
Oh, boy.
several years ago,
Oh,
which is part of the reason, I believe, for the condition of the property.
okay, thank you.
Okay, Bill, anything else to add?
Nothing that I have to add at this time. Thank you.
Okay. What's our next step, our next direction?
I think you should take public comment and then prior to board deliberations.
Okay, is there any public comment?
At this time, there is not. Deputy City Attorney Ryan Donlan had some issues. He's just getting back into the meeting right now. But we do not have public comment at this time.
Okay,
And just state for the record, if we could, that notice was provided by the department, both posted on the property and sent to the last known address on the assessor's roll as required by the city code. And the property owner or any agent or representative has not appeared today with that.
And for the record, Ryan Donlan has rejoined the meeting. Oh, I've had issues.
Also, just for the record as well, when I spoke with Ms. Lawton this morning, I explained to her that there was an appeals board hearing today, offered her the opportunity to join, and she said she was unable to join due to her internet and technology situation, but I would keep her apprised of your decision.
okay,
How would
Thank
you
you.
go about serving the order? How would we go about serving the order of whatever this board decides?
I do have her address where the mother is located, and she will get all records to that address. It is a correct and viable address.
Thank you.
And Board Member Milich, I would add that I think that would be advisable to send to the daughter, but per the code, it may be legally sufficient to mail to the address of record and to do a posting of the same. That is what the code would provide.
Well, I would also request that you send a letter to the lady, care of her daughter, if you would be kind enough to do that also. Well, Daryl, what do you think?
well, I appreciate the city, they tried hard, and I do appreciate that in a difficult situation. But obviously, for the sake of the city and the neighbors, we need to continue to move forward on this the best we can.
You want to make a motion?
I would be glad to make a motion to, I guess, go ahead and assess these fees, these penalties that we have discussed, and to continue to press them for cleaning up the property and doing what we are asking them to do.
So that would include the administrative costs, the fees, and the fact that if they don't clean it up within that, what is it, 30 days, that the $10 a day goes up to $50 a day.
Right.
I would second that motion.
Okay.
We need to actually make findings as to what public nuisance currently exists on the property that you're finding. It may make sense to do a screen share of the order so that you can revise the proposed order.
So how do you want to change it?
Well,
We find that it's a public nuisance? We can do that, because it is.
so under the, oh, here's Bill sharing. Under the proposed order, we had originally, the department had originally found these different subsections of the city code to have been violated, and that a public nuisance existed for those, I believe it's 7 different reasons. But as Bill has updated the board today, I think, and Bill, correct me if I'm wrong, that M is a remaining violation.
M, I think, is the primary remaining issue at this point. Yes, the vehicles.
So if the board is so inclined, the order could be modified so that only a finding of subsection M related to the storage of vehicles on the property in violation of the city code is found, and then reference in subparagraph 2 could just be shortened to non-operational vehicles.
Okay.
Okay, I agree with that. Thank you.
And then under compliance actions, Bill, if we could go down to there, I think we would just want to have compliance if, and again, the board's pleasure is to focus on the vehicle abatement.
Was there also not an issue with the securing of the garage? And maybe I missed that part. But Bill, was that part of?
The securing of the garage should be happening by the mortgage company. It has not, I didn't make it by today, but it is supposed to be completed this week. And I am confident in working with them that it will get handled. Worst case scenario, honestly, would be that it doesn't get secured and it is clean. And I would say at this time, no longer a nuisance.
How shall we handle that as the board members?
Bill, are you saying we don't have to address it today and you're confident that it'll be
I am
addressed?
confident if we can concentrate on the vehicles, that's the primary, and that is the sticking point because of the property issues.
Okay. So board, it sounds like we can proceed with a motion to find a violation of subsection M because of the existence of abandoned trailers and non-operational vehicles. And I believe Assistant City Attorney Salamo was referring also to subparagraph 2 of the administrative order in terms of the compliance.
Correct.
I
Compliance
can't.
action to just the vehicles.
Okay.
Okay, I'm glad to amend my motion to include those two things, M and 2.
Seconded.
Okay,
And the motion, just to clarify, includes your prior direction to also impose the cost and administrative penalties laid out in the proposed order.
Yes.
yes.
Okay, I'll go ahead and do a roll call now. Board Member Milich,
Yes.
Chair Hawkins.
Yes.
Okay, with a quorum of 2 members, the motion has passed 2-0.
Okay, and the board will then prepare an order consistent with those findings and that motion and circulate it for signature and then direct it to the department for service on any interested parties.
Yep.
Good.
I think
And-
Karen will do that for us.
That'll be me this time.
Okay.
Yep. And if there's anyone that would be interested in appealing this matter that is out there, this is the final decision of the appeals hearing board. Any further judicial process would have to be taken up with the Superior Court under Code of Civil Procedure, section 1094.6.
It's what, 90 days or 30 days?
from the written decision. So once that gets out.
And I believe it's 90 days from the written decision.
Okay.
Our clerk, I believe the next matter isn't scheduled till 3. Is that correct?
That is correct. I do not see that Miss Ogbonna has signed on yet. I did see that she popped in, but she's gone now, so we might need to wait till 3 o'clock.
Chair Hawkins, should we recess until 3?
Sure, I think that makes sense.
Okay.
Amp, I just want to let you know we are taking a 20
Thank you. And I will introduce myself. Daryl Hawkins is the chairman, and we have with us Stephen Milich, the other board member.
Hello.
Are there any public comments? Do I need to reopen that?
Give me a minute. Let me just
So-
double check. I'm sorry, not at this time. No
Okay.
public comment.
So the subject item number 2 is motion for reconsideration and to reopen the hearing on the appeal by Shamir Obana in the city forester's decision to deny application for removal of one California pepper tree at 514 Prescott Avenue. And Stephen, I believe, I don't know if you've received the standards for appeal review on trees. Did you get a copy of that, Stephen?
I don't believe so.
Okay. The city council and staff have these 4 items for to render a decision. 1, the visual prominence, value, and importance of the tree on the site or in the community. 2, the tree's contribution to the aesthetic beauty of the area and the effect its removal would have on the neighboring property values. 3, evidence or testimony presented by the applicant that demonstrates the extent of concern or anxiety caused by the tree. And 4, acceptance of mitigation measures, which are the number and size of the replacement trees, should we decide to go that way. So our city attorney statement.
Well, I don't think we're at the point, I'll make my statement that as in we said in the prior hearing, you know, there's an ethical wall in between me and Deputy City Attorney Ryan Donlin, who is representing the department in this matter, and I am only advising the board, and we have not communicated in any way on the substance of this. But before we even get to the point of opening the hearing, I think we need to have board member deliberation and discussion on the chair's motion for reconsideration and to reopen the hearing based on the fact that the 4 standards for the appeals hearing board review of tree decisions, which are different than the standards for the forester's decision on a permit, were not adequately considered in the prior meeting. And so first we need to decide that motion.
Okay. Do we have any comments or thoughts about that? Shall I make a motion to,
Well,
Go
why don't
ahead.
we open it for public comment and then you can take it back for deliberations.
okay,
At this time, I do not see any public comment, although I do see an extra person in the hearing, and I'm not sure if she needs to make a comment now at this point in time.
Well, appellant can make a public comment if she wishes as well.
Okay.
This is just on the reconsideration motion at this point in time.
I thought a motion for reconsideration was based upon new evidence or things that we hadn't considered that we should have. I don't understand why we have a motion in front of us for reconsideration. Did the city forester respond to this? What, if anything, did he take any of these 4 points into consideration in denying the permit? Or I'm sort of nonplussed as to why we're here for this.
So under the city code, the forester is not permitted to take into consideration these 4 factors.
Okay,
The forester can only consider tree health, safety, and mitigation measures. When it comes before the board, however, in addition to the standards the forester considered, the board is required to consider also aesthetics, the visual prominence of the tree, the anxiety of the appellant, and mitigation factors. And so there had been concern after the prior meeting that the 4 additional factors for board consideration were not fully addressed in the board's decision.
Okay. So based on that, I need to make a motion for the reconsideration? And Steve, are you interested in seconding it?
I want to find out why, well, for purposes of discussion, I'll second it.
Okay,
Okay, I'll call the vote.
No,
No, I don't
he
need to do
seconded
that?
for discussion.
Okay, thank you.
And was there any, I don't think we ever actually determined if there was any public comment on this item.
So am I able to make a comment?
Yes.
So I would just like the opportunity to give my presentation. I don't think that I was aware of kind of how the process would be, or if I would be able to present a presentation. And so I didn't ask for that. So I would like to have the opportunity to do so. And if, you know, the end result is the same, I'm satisfied with that. I'm just asking for the opportunity.
okay. Do we need the city forester to begin, or we've already heard his discussion in the previous meeting?
If we reopen the hearing, then both appellant and the department would have the opportunity to. Board Member Milich, you're muted.
I couldn't hear the applicant because my computer cut out and just came back on. So I don't know what she said, and I'd like to know what she said. I'm sorry, but
I can repeat myself. I wanted to say that I was a bit confused about the procedures last week, and I didn't know that I was able to present a presentation. So I would like the opportunity to present that information that I you know, put time and effort into putting into a presentation. And if the end result is the same, I'm satisfied with that. I would just like to have that opportunity to feel like I advocated for myself effectively.
I agree with that. Thank you.
Okay. Can we have the appellant proceed, or do I need to do something?
And we
first?
have to vote on the motion first.
Okay.
And if you vote to reopen the hearing, then both the department and the appellant will have the opportunity to present.
Okay,
So there's already a motion and a second if you want to call the question.
okay, let's call the question and vote.
Okay. Board Member Milich,
Yes,
Board Member Hawkins.
Yes,
Okay, the motion passes 2-0. We'll proceed.
okay.
who has the burden of proof here? Does the city have it, or does the applicant?
The original applicant has the burden of proof, but our city code states that prior to the opening of the hearing, which we're doing now, the staff, city forester is required to give a presentation. So we'll start with that, and then appellant will give the presentation.
So the burden of proof is on whom? Us? The city?
No, it's on the applicant for the tree
Yeah.
removal.
In this case. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
And with that, if everyone can hear me, and hopefully I can avoid any further technical issues, I did prepare a PowerPoint presentation, which I will attempt to share now. Can everyone see that?
Yes,
Great. This is about 12 slides or so, and I think I will be presenting the first part of it, which just goes through the process of the appeal and of the forester's decision, and then the second half, our city forester, Justin Prouty, will take in discussing his application of those standards. And I'll try to go through this as quickly as I can, but if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to pause for questions or for discussion. So the overall background here is that our city council has decided that it would like to promote a forested backdrop, and that is what contributes to the charm and beauty of our city. Accordingly, this ordinance is intended to assure preservation of trees and replacement of those trees when removal is unavoidable. So I think that is the overall standard we're working with here, is tree removal should be considered unavoidable. A private property owner is required to apply for a permit to the city forester. City Code Section 37-10B provides the standards that the forester must consider in determining that application. Number one is the condition of the tree with respect to disease, hazardous conditions. I really don't want to just read this to you, but I'll highlight it in my terms. This does allow the board to consider things such as traffic areas, at least with respect to high pedestrian traffic areas and parking lots. So I know that was a point of discussion last week that the board may want to consider now. I see now that my slides skipped from number 1 to number 3. I don't know if maybe, I don't know what happened to number 2. The health of the tree, the number of healthy trees the parcel is able to support is something the forester considers. 4 is the acceptance of mitigation measures. 5, the value and importance of the tree to the community, such as a windbreak, soil erosion, wildlife habitat, and its role in maintaining the existence of an urban forest. 3711, if the board does allow the tree to be removed, it can impose these mitigation measures. And this is my paraphrasing, but essentially it can order, if the tree is to be removed, that there doesn't have to be any replacement tree. It can order 1 replacement tree up to 3. It can order a payment in lieu of replacement or a payment in lieu of maintenance. So there's other things that the board could do if it so chose to mitigate the removal of this tree. Here is the procedure for an appeal of the forester's decision. Just very broadly, secretary sets the hearing. The applicant has the burden of proof. So that's addressing what you were mentioning before, Chairmember Milich. Formal rules of evidence do not apply. Appeals hearing board may consider any evidence or information deemed relevant. These are the things in section 37-13C. These are the things that the appeals hearing board considers in determining whether the tree should be removed or not. And so there was a reference to this at the beginning of the hearing, I believe, when Chair Hawkins moved for reconsideration. Some of these factors are the same as what the forester bases his decision on. Some may be a little different. So visual prominence and importance of the tree on the site or in the community, the tree's contribution to the aesthetic beauty of the area, and its effect of removal would have on neighboring property values, anxiety caused by removal of the tree, or sorry, anxiety caused by the existence of the tree, and then acceptance of those mitigation measures. So here I'm going to turn it over to the forester because now we're getting into his application of those standards. So I'm stopping share, and then maybe Justin, if I don't know if you're able to, Justin, do you have this available to share, or do you want me just to slide at your direction?
I have it open as a PowerPoint, so let me see if I can figure this out.
All right, I will stop my share. If necessary, I can share again, then you can just tell me how to scroll.
Okay, let's see. Okay, so we should be on slide 8, correct? That's where we left off.
Page 138 of the agenda packet, if you have it in that form.
Oh, I just pulled up the PowerPoint that you have
Okay.
while reviewing this. Does this look, I think this is where we left off. The first, this is based on the application that I received. The tree is encroaching on the
Speak
power
up,
line.
please.
I'm sorry, you still can't hear me?
No.
I've been made aware I don't have a great microphone. Better? Worse?
Yes.
Okay. The tree is encroaching on the power lines, telephone lines. It can be controlled by pruning. There are telecommunications lines there. It's not considered hazardous in itself. So in that case, removal is avoidable. Roots may make fence replacement difficult. There's no current plans for a fence that I saw in general, and really, I don't consider those types of factors for removal permits. It actually says that those should be heard by the appeals hearing board if there is development related issues that don't require a permit from the planning department. Impact on sewer line. The applicant stated she was concerned about sewer lines. In my professional opinion and opinions of other arborists, it's not common or extremely unlikely that the tree roots will impact the sewer line a second time after repair is made. Tree roots will capitalize on a damaged sewer line, but they will not typically break a sewer line that is in good working order. Traffic, line of sight. There's some concern not brought up on the initial application about line of sight. I think this picture illustrates it pretty well. It does appear a little bit low there. This is a Google Street View, so I think the tree is actually pruned a little bit higher than this at this point. Really, the view from really the neighboring property, their view is obstructed more by a fence than the tree. The tree is set back far enough that it can be reasonably pruned and maintain that visual line of sight. And the applicant said they would like to plant 2 to 3 fruit trees. Fruit trees would not be appropriate mitigation for a large landscape tree such as a pepper. Would not provide the same benefits that a large landscape tree does provide to the community and to the environment and the overall spirit of the City of Monterey tree ordinance. And the area is largely considered without trees, so that goes to the value and importance of the tree on the site community. The loss of tree in this area would more negatively impact the community than perhaps other areas of Monterey. And it does, in my opinion, contribute to the aesthetic beauty and is visually prominent and will become more so if it's allowed to grow into maturity. And that's it for me.
Okay, thank you, Justin. So the applicant's presentation, please feel free to share with us.
Okay, so again, I just want to say thank you for the opportunity to present the information that I collected for this appeals board. I did also want to highlight that I read the ordinance to get a better understanding of what the appeals board can consider in terms of their decision. This has previously already been shared with everybody here on the Zoom call. But I did try to use the ordinance to tailor my presentation to make sure that I addressed the factors that may be considered by the appeals board. I also wanted to try to provide a little bit more context as well. I felt that looking at the agenda that was emailed out last week, I noticed that there were a couple of other tree removal appeals that were on the agenda. And in the forester's report, it seemed like the other appeals had pictures attached to them, and I didn't see any pictures attached to my appeal on the end of the forester's in terms of his report that was in the agenda. And then also looking at the PowerPoint, again, lack of pictures. And I really feel that it's important to get some context and looking at pictures of the area around my property. One of the things I saw in the presentation was that the area doesn't have a lot of trees, which I don't think is a very accurate statement to make. So I stood at the end of my driveway and I took pictures of what I could see just at the end of my driveway. The two center pictures are pictures across the street. I live across the street from a Christian private school, and there are a number of trees across the street in that field area. These trees are much more prominent than the tree that's on my property. My tree is, I say it doesn't really compare in terms of prominence in height and fullness compared to the other trees that are visible. The picture on the right is a picture of Prescott Ave looking away from the water. And again, you could see that there are a number of trees lining the sidewalks and clearly very visible. On the left-hand side, there's also a tree of my neighbor's. This is my neighbor on the right-hand side. Also has a tree in their front yard. Again, this tree is very prominent as well. So to say that there aren't really prominent trees in the area, I don't think is very accurate. I also went on top of my roof and basically kind of did a 360 to take pictures as well. And again, I do feel like there are a lot of trees in the area and clearly, that's something I really like about the area that I live in is that there are a lot of trees that are present there. So again, to provide a little bit of context. Regarding the tree that's in my front yard, so just brief introduction. Again, I'm new to Monterey. Definitely all of this is a learning experience for me. First time homeowner. The house is older. It was built in 1956. I purchased the home in August 2020 and moved in October of 2020. So the tree in question is the pepper tree that's located in the front yard. One of the things that prompted me to look into submitting an application for tree removal is after I moved in, I noticed or was told by the previous tenant that lived there that there were issues related to the toilet not flushing very well. And part of the purchase agreement was to have the sewer line inspected. As a result of that, I became aware of the issues with the sewer line and the tree root infiltration, which I'll review in a second. But one of the things I also did was I talked to a number of different arborists just to get a general sense of whether it would be a good idea to even submit an application or if it would just be, a waste of time and money to do so. And what I heard a lot when people came by to take a look at the tree and take a look at my property is that, yes, it's a very beautiful tree, but it just seems to be in the wrong location for the layout of the home and the size of the lot that I have. And they also always point out, without me having to say anything, that the clear out that's located directly in front of the tree. And they always point out that the tree is over the sewer line and this is not a good thing and that it can cause potential issues in the future. And so that really got me thinking, especially as I kind of go through the process I had to deal with in terms of getting the line replaced and the findings, that the issue really was where the tree is located being directly over the sewer line. And my request included the mitigating factor that I would be more than happy to replant trees in a location away from the sewer line where the trees can grow in a sustainable way. Other reasons for seeking the removal permit, the tree, to my understanding, is not a native tree. I was told it's a South American tree. It's also not a landmark designated tree, although it is protected under the city ordinance status. Hazards that are not addressed by pruning in terms of the denial that I got, a lot of it said, oh, you can prune, you can prune, you can prune. However, the tree being over the sewer line is not something that can be addressed simply by pruning the tree. I mentioned the problems I was aware of the sewer line and the tree root infiltration. They were not able to salvage the line, and it required total replacement, which included digging up the street as well as traffic control, which speaks to, again, a high traffic area that I live in on Prescott Ave. I was not able to attach the video of the camera that the plumbers put into the line because it was too large, and it wouldn't let me be able to email the presentation if I were to do so. I ended up having to work with two different plumbing companies. The first plumbers, I submitted the invoices I received from them, again, noting that there was standing water, that there was a lot of backup. They actually were really surprised that there weren't more issues related to my sewer line and the toilets as a result of the extensive tree root infiltration. This caused multiple breaks into the pipe. And again, resulting in me needing to replace the entire line as opposed to doing other procedures that may have been less expensive to do so. So they were able to, initially remove the roots that they could from the line. And then I was actually referred to a different plumbing company because, again, it had to be replaced completely and they had to dig. And as I mentioned, I had to also pay for traffic control in addition to replacing the line and them digging into the street to do so. So again, the primary concern and what's causing a lot of anxiety is that the tree is located right above the sewer line. It's already demonstrated damage to the sewer line. I looked up tree roots and sewer lines and saw that pepper trees are notorious for causing issues with sewer lines because the roots are very aggressive and they can very easily damage lines, drains, and even break up concrete as a result as well. And that's the tree that I have in my front yard. So definitely a lot of anxiety about having to replace the entire line. How long is this line going to last with the tree directly above it, posing a threat, and wanting to protect the investment and the longevity of the line that I had to replace. As I mentioned, I spoke to other arborists prior to the initial tree removal permit. And in general, the consensus that I had with these arborists, I spoke to 4 different ones. They said, again, nothing was wrong with the health of the tree. However, based on where the tree was located, this will likely result in me having issues in the future related to the sewer line and potential other damage to the property. They felt that the request to remove the tree would be reasonable. And being that the tree is on private property, it's not a native tree. I also mentioned, as I put in my initial application, the desire to replant trees as a mitigating factor, and they felt that that would be desirable as well, and to include that as part of my application. And ultimately, these are just opinions from arborists in the community. And I do understand ultimately the city forester and in this case, the appeals board would be the ones to make the final decision about whether or not to approve the tree removal permit. So again, the proposal is to be able to remove the tree. And in place of that, I initially wrote 1 to 2 trees in a different location. I actually feel very confident, and I can show you pictures where I can plant 3 15-gallon trees to replace the removal of the pepper tree in the front yard. I also was not aware initially that fruit trees would not be considered an appropriate replacement for the pepper tree. And so I went online to Monterey.org, looked up native trees, and I saw a list of different garden trees as well as a list of different landscape trees. Looking at that list, I picked out a few that looked interesting and felt that would be appropriate replacements. This obviously is not an exhaustive list. And again, I'm very open to recommendations put forth by the city forester or the appeals board should the appeal be granted, the reversal of the denial be granted with this appeal. And again, just emphasizing, I wasn't aware when I wrote the initial application that a fruit tree would not be an equivalent replacement. And I'm more than open to whatever is suggested or anything that is currently listed here from the list I looked at on the Monterey.org website. So in terms of where I would replant new trees, I have a strip of land that measures probably roughly, I'd say 4.5, 5 feet to 19 feet maybe. And I feel that that's more than ample space to be able to plant the 3 15-gallon trees. And I obviously would need to remove the raised beds that I have here in order to do so and move them over onto the other side, which I would be able to do and continue to garden with the removal of the tree from that side, as it would no longer cause any issues with gardening or shading. I did speak with a landscaper about just ideas, and I will say again, nothing is finalized at this time in terms of what the actual plan would look like. But in general, the idea would be to have trees planted on this side. And again, the trees will be whatever is recommended by the forester or the appeals board from the list that I saw on the website. And then the raised beds would be I'd be able to put on the other side. For the sake of being in the process of this removal, I did ask that she would go ahead and just draw the tree there. But again, the proposal is to be able to have this tree removed as it's right over the sewer line. Other things that I feel would be important to consider in terms of again, having context for my argument is taking into account the size and orientation of the front yard and the home. Last week, one of the board members mentioned zoning and the ratio of home to land and how that was kind of off. And that is correct. And also asked if I had a backyard, and it's correct to say that I do not have a backyard. So this again further increases the importance that I feel that the front yard has, as well as anxiety related to not having a lot of space there and having the tree be right over the sewer line. In addition, being able to move the raised bed so that I have that area that I can plant new trees. I would be able to move the beds over to this side. These pictures are again trying to give context to the size of the front yard that I have and kind of what I'm working with, and highlighting again that the tree is located right over the sewer line. Personal reasons, I do enjoy gardening and being able to move my raised beds to the other side, if I were to move that tree, would allow me to take advantage of the fact that my property is south facing and I would be able to continue to garden. Again, I don't have a backyard, so it's not like I would be able to do that in another area. I did want to include, again, for context, the amount of gardening that I do. So I would say it's probably more than average, what the average person does. And this, again, is something that is very important to me. And I do want to highlight that. I do understand that maybe this isn't a sufficient reason for people who aren't gardeners, but it is something that is important to me and something that I would like to continue on my property. I do have some safety concerns, just again related to the high traffic area that Prescott Ave is, and the trees' potential to occlude sight lines when backing up. Prescott's very active. There's cars, there's dog walkers, joggers, etc. The tree also is kind of weeping, so that can go over the sidewalk where pedestrians are walking. And then backing up, you have to pay attention to one corner that has a stop sign. The other corner does not have a stop sign. So sometimes cars are stopping, sometimes they're not stopping. And so there's a lot of things to attend to when backing out, and to be able to not have an additional factor to worry about in terms of safety and backing out in a safe manner, I think would be another reason worth considering this. I also do have neighbor support. So I did ask my neighbor to be present for a public comment. She has lived on her property for over 25 years, and she can speak to her experience with the tree as well. And informally speaking with her, she did also mention some safety concerns that she had in terms of backing out of her driveway with the tree. And also mentioned issues related to the trees causing shade and also debris. And I will let her speak to that more during the public comment period. But just to emphasize again that I do have support from my neighbor who has also been living by the tree for actually longer than I have. And I would like her to have the opportunity to speak. In regards to aesthetics, this goes back to context. So there are other trees that are in the area, other trees that I say would be more prominent than the tree that's located in my front yard. So when talking about aesthetics related to the number of trees that are present, and creating an urban forest environment, I do not feel that removal of this tree would have a negative effect on neighborhood aesthetics. And offering the mitigating factor of being able to replant 3 additional trees, I think would hopefully be able to address any aesthetic concerns of removing a tree, because I'll be able to plant 3 trees as opposed to just having that 1 tree there. And I do think it's an opportunity to improve the overall aesthetics in regards, again, to the number of trees that are present there. And the ordinance mentioned a possible negative effect of removing the tree on property values. I don't believe it would be a negative effect on property values, so I did want to include that as well. So in conclusion, I do feel that trimming the tree in the front yard is not going to address the main reason, which is the location of the tree being directly over the sewer line and the clear out, demonstrating that. And that's not something that could be addressed by simply trimming. I do think there's an opportunity to plant additional trees as a mitigating factor of removing that 1 tree. So again, the area that I showed you, I'm very confident that that's enough space to plant 3 15-gallon trees. It will be away from the sewer line. It will be in a location that's much more sustainable so that those trees can grow unimpeded and also not contribute to any concern or anxiety related to further damage to the sewer line or the property. And again, as I mentioned, being able to move my raised beds over will allow me to have that space that I can use to plant the trees. I also feel that removing of the tree is not going to have a negative effect on neighborhood aesthetics. And it may actually have a positive effect on aesthetics because I'm increasing the number of trees that are present on my property. And again, not having a negative effect on property values, maybe even having it be the same or even improving property values as a result of having more trees. And finally, I do feel that removing this tree would reduce significant anxiety that I have in relation to the tree being over the sewer line and causing additional problems. It is true that the line has been replaced, but I don't think replacing the line is a guarantee that the tree will not contribute to further problems in the future. And just a statement that, like I said, I'm new to Monterey. I'm learning a lot through this whole process about the city and ordinances and how everything works. I do consider this to be my home. I love living here. I love the community. And I had a very warm welcome moving in the middle of a pandemic, which was in and of itself anxiety provoking, but I've been very humbled by the warm welcome that I've had. And regardless, as I said, of the outcome of this hearing, I do thank you for the opportunity to present my case in a more full way than I was last week due to my confusion. And just thank you for your consideration.
Thank you very much.
How to stop sharing. Okay.
And thank you. And we agree. We're glad to welcome you to Monterey. I've lived here for 65 years and love it, and love photography and the ocean and the trees and things. Any response from the department, from Justin?
No, I would really just be reiterating what I say is that
Justin, get closer to the microphone.
I'm gonna have to get one of the Britney Spears style headset mics, I think. Yeah, just reiterating, I really am not doing this for any other reason, just my criteria. I think the sewer line argument, the full repair, in my opinion, and the opinion of other arborists I've worked with, I'm just going off the information I know that it's not likely to cause damage. Nothing's a guarantee, but nothing with trees is. And I think you have all the information.
Okay, and public response.
Hi, ma'am.
Hello?
You're unmuted, so if you'd like to speak, go right
Thank
ahead.
you. Thank you.
Can you state your name for the record, please?
My name is Carolyn Mitchell. I am the neighbor immediately to the left of Chinieri's property and share the fence and share the tree, which hangs considerably over the fence and over my driveway, and has been in the past an impediment to my view because of the nature, the drooping, hanging nature of the foliage has made it, difficult. Pedestrians at times have had to duck and push it off their head, and that can be very obstructive to my view of the stop sign up the street on Belden. And yes, I'm in support of her application. I think it would be nice to have other trees going in, and the comment about a lack of trees in the neighborhood at this moment in time, I am short a tree on my driveway. I have a construction project going on, and a large tree was removed, and I'm replacing it as soon as the construction's over with an olive tree on the driveway on that end of the lot. So more trees are coming on another tree is coming on my side. So it's not quite as bleak as reported, and I don't experience it as bleak at all. Anyway, I'm here to support my neighbor. Do you have any questions?
Yes, I do. Stephen Millich here. Is there a fence between your property and Chinieri's?
Yes.
And how high is that fence?
Oh, I don't know. It's taller than I am, probably 5-6 feet. It's been there. It's very old, creaky fence.
Does that impede your view at all when you're backing out of your driveway?
Well, of course, I have to back past, I have a SUV type vehicle, and I have to back clear so that the rear of my car is on the street in order to see up the street. But that's doable. It's because I have to look in both directions, and I have a fence on my side too that impedes the direction down towards Lane Street. So
whether the tree was there or not, you would still have to back out slowly.
Oh, well, of course.
Okay.
Yes.
Because the fence would block your view.
Yes, it would, but it's further blocked after the fence because of the low hanging foliage on the pepper tree. Hangs over the sidewalk. So.
And that couldn't be trimmed back?
Well, I'm sure in the past it has sporadically, but I have a long history of living with that tree that has not been maintained. So.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, any other comments? Thank you for the presentation. Probably one of the nicer looking presentations I've seen, so thank you very much. Any other comments before we turn to deliberation of the board members?
So I do want to make a comment just referencing the fence. So at this time, as I mentioned, I have been looking at making some landscaping changes. And one of the things I've actually been considering and working with Carolyn is to remove the fence or actually significantly lower the fence that's there. And if that were done, the tree being there will still be something there that would influence line of sight and backing out. So even if the fence wasn't there, the tree would still have an influence on being able to see while backing out.
I got that impression from Mrs. Mitchell. But thank you.
Okay.
At this time, Chair Hawkins, I do not see any other public comment.
Okay, good. Thank you. And I will start that I think you're greatly over exaggerating the root problem. I had the same problem in my yard. I had it replaced with a solid Pipeline, I haven't had any problems since. And as I understand, what you did is there's a continuous liner pipe that was put inside your existing pipe. And I think that will solve the problem for a long time. Roots go into it. Well, there's no holes. What was replaced was 2-foot sections of tile with a joint every 2 feet. And that's what I had, and I had problems with it. I replaced it. I don't think you'll have any problems regarding that. Steve, any thoughts or comments?
In my experience, with the years that I was with the city of Simi Valley, I did represented Public Works. And we had problems with root intrusion into sewer lines on private properties. And by and large, it was because that the tiles or sewers broke, and the roots were attracted to the water, okay, from the sewer line. And so it wasn't the roots that broke the sewer line, it was the broken sewer line that attracted the roots.
Right.
And that causes the problem. So I agree with you. I don't think there's likely to be a problem with a new sewer line, especially if we put up a liner within it. I don't know. I'm torn on this one. I really am, because I realize that it's a small lot and that the tree takes an inordinate amount of the lot and probably should never have been planted there to begin with, but it is there. So the question is, do we allow the existence of the tree to interfere with the homeowner's enjoyment of her property? And with the possible problem of sewers, and then the problem of backing out of her neighbor backing out of the driveway. That's what's got me going right now. And I tend to side with the homeowner on this one. But that's, yeah. And if you go on the other way, then there's no motion that's going to be seconded, and the appeal will die for lack of action.
Well, we could also continue it to another time when board member Glenzer would be able to come back. So that's a third option if the board is inclined to do that.
I would be more comfortable with that. But I noticed that, well, never mind. You can never say what someone's going to do or predict what anyone's going to do. Because if you had predicted what I was going to do before the hearing, I certainly would have come out this way. Can we agree, Daryl, on putting it over to another meeting if that's agreeable to the appellant?
I'm okay with that.
So move before you change your mind.
Okay.
For what it's worth, I guess I'll register the forester's objection. It was a duly noticed hearing. The board member did not appear. We're ready to proceed with members that we have. I'm not sure if we did this again, if we would be required to undertake the entire presentation of both parties at great time and expense.
I would think so.
Yeah. So
since the meeting is being recorded, would it be permissible to have the missing board member watch the recorded meeting so that if we were to meet again, it would be more discussion as opposed to repeating presentations. Would that be an option?
Excellent idea.
I think if both parties would stipulate to that, that is something that we could do if you were both be in agreement to that.
I would be in agreement to that.
Okay.
Daryl, I'd be willing to stipulate.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
May I confer with my client?
Sure, we can take a 5-minute recess.
Okay. That's, yeah, I'll probably need 2 minutes.
Okay, a 2-minute recess.
I'm here at the office.
the city forester is concerned about the use of staff time and resources. However, he would be willing to stipulate to continue the hearing provided that any absent board member could view the video before that hearing so that both parties would not have to give their entire presentations and we would not have to redo everything that we've done here already. So I believe that was the idea of the proposed stipulation. So if those are the terms, the forester would be willing to do that.
Okay, so what do we need to do? Just adjourn this meeting
Need
to
to make
continue
sure
it?
it's okay with the applicant.
Yes,
Yes, that would be okay with me.
okay, thank you. And thank you for your time too.
Sure.
Okay,
So
Thank
why don't
you.
we continue? We should, we need an actual motion to continue. And we need that to be voted on. And I would recommend that we select a date here so that the appellant would know that and can advise us of her availability as well. And we can continue it then to a date certain and arrange for either board member Glenzer or the alternate to appear at that hearing.
okay. Should we set a date first, time?
So I'm looking at dates now. Give me just a minute.
Okay,
And of course, this is going to rely on the availability of the alternate or board member Glenzer, who
Of course.
can't vote
Yeah.
right now.
Yes, that's correct. Okay, so I have a couple of dates. Let me know if these two dates work for everyone. February 22nd at 11 a.m. or February 25th at 2 p.m.
I'm fine with both of those.
What was the second one, 25th?
The 25th at 2 p.m.
Either one is fine with me.
Either one is fine with me.
Either one's fine with me as well.
Okay.
Monday's preferable, but I will make it work.
Okay, well then, since Monday is preferable and everyone's okay with both dates, so why don't we move forward with February 22nd, Monday at 11 a.m.
I so move.
Okay, I second.
Should I take a vote now, Karen? Call the vote now?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to take a roll call for continuing to date certain of February 22nd at 11 a.m. Board Member Milich
Yes.
and Chair Hawkins.
Yes,
Okay, the motion has passed 2-0.
okay. Thank you very much for everyone, and we will reconvene.
Okay, see you in a few weeks.
Thank you.